Hey, welcome to Fabulous Friday. And we have Kevin Hoare as my special co host tonight. It's a pleasure doing that.
Glad to
And
be on.
it's good to have him on. Well, I'll tell you, we've got some things to talk about. Of course, the news continues on. And I wanted to get started talking about Oregon and some things that are going on. But first of all, there's the story that I just posted out of the Epic Times that some states embrace CO2 cap and trade schemes and others reject them. Opponents say it's a regressive tax that doesn't deliver anything, while the proponents say it's not a tax, but it puts a price on greenhouse gas emissions. And interestingly, it really is divided by blue states and red states. And many Republican states are not to have appear to have no intention of getting involved and passing cap and trade mandates, which I really wasn't aware of that until reading this article. And yet the Democrat states have passed it. There's a few in the middle that some swing states they have entered and then exited cap and trade pacts, depending
Yep.
on which party gains the upper hand. But cap and trade didn't start here in the United States. This is out of the European Union. This is the globalist plan. And truly, it doesn't do anything to curb emissions. What it does is it creates a lot of money for governing bodies and the middle people.
Slush funds.
Yes, there you go. Very good. But what it actually does is it hurts all of us financially because our electrical rates, our energy rates are going through the roof predominantly because of cap and trade.
Yep.
Something that I had in reading this article, it says Europe led the way in mandating this, and that was back in 2005. Interestingly enough, former President Barack Obama stated in 2008 that because they attempted to implement a nationwide cap and trade system,
Of course
but
they did.
but noted that Americans would end up paying more. And he actually said, under my plan of cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket,
Skyrocket. Yep.
you know? And that's exactly what they've done. And if you're wondering, why are my rates going up? Why are my rates going up? Well, it is to do with this, especially here in Oregon, because they passed a light cap and tax, and killed the coal industry in our state as far as coal powered plants. And also, they didn't build any natural gas to replace those coal powered plants.
Well, in fact,
So,
they specifically passed in the state budget. They forbid the replacement of a coal plant with a natural gas plant, which was supposed to happen at Boardman, right?
yes, that's exactly right. It was to happen there. And, so I just wanted you to elections have consequences on so many levels, and so I'm starting with Oregon because we have this, and we even have some so-called Republicans that help get us cap and tax here in Oregon. And I know that we've just finished the fabulous Republican convention, and we're going to talk about that later. But it's okay to call out those that are truly not for making Oregon a better place, but
I mean,
taxing the citizens.
well, so
And
the inflation, right? We have the Green New Deal. They gave it a name. They said
yes,
it was the Inflation Reduction Act, but it was actually the Inflation Act, because what they did is they started making all energy more expensive
yeah,
and making it harder to actually tap American energy, of which we have an abundant amount. So we already have a taste of what the effects of cap and trade can be like, European style, because they've come in and they've really made it so that if we could actually solve inflation very
Yeah.
quickly
Yeah.
by allowing energy prices to finally be mitigated by energy supply in this country. But they don't want that. They want this slush fund scheme to come into being. Different states have implemented it. And as you said, it's blue states, right? Well,
Yeah.
where are people moving away from? Where is inflation the highest? I've actually seen this chart that shows all the states in the country, and it shows the states with the biggest inflation problems, and they're blue states.
Yes.
And it's where people are leaving. And
It
it's like
is.
the number one issue that people are saying is affecting their lives is that America is not affordable anymore. And it all comes back to, in large part, energy, because energy drives all other costs. It's part of everything.
It is. It's the biggest money maker. You know, I live in a town that we have our own, thankfully, our own electric utility. And so, and being on the budget committee of our town for 4 years, I got to see just how much money this generates, and realizing, because, you know, government doesn't manufacture anything,
No,
right? They don't. They're
no,
not
it just
supposed.
steals money from people who do.
Yes.
That's what it
Yeah.
does.
And so taking this now in a different direction, um, Oregon Governor Kotek suggests a 515 million budget increase in K through 12 schools.
Yeah.
And this is crazy. This would go into effect in 2025 through 2027. We have people
After the
leaving the
election.
school system. We're like the worst in the states for school outcomes. We've lowered the bar that students don't need to accomplish anything to even graduate. But the teachers went on strike, and Kotek promised them millions. And that's what I think this is what this is about.
It's a payoff, because one thing that we can actually say is that more money going into Oregon schools has no relationship, no direct correlative relationship with improved outcomes.
No.
We have not seen that. We've actually seen the
Not at
opposite.
all.
And even more, we've seen more money go in as enrollment in public schools has declined, and it's still gotten worse. So they're going to plow more money into this, and they go and they try to get it from wherever they can. And then once they get it, they know that these schemes usually are impossible to get rid of, usually, which is why many Democrats in many blue states across the country are trying to figure out how to implement these cap and trade schemes, among other things, because they know that once it's in there, even if you get complete Republican control, we often don't get rid of it afterwards.
Yeah.
And you know what we have to do? We have to get rid of it afterwards, is what we have to do.
We do. So, even in a statement, Tina Kotek noted, and this is where the problem is, part of it, that nationwide school districts have experienced budget challenges because of the expiration of the federal pandemic relief dollars. So they built up a bunch of things in the school, bloated their budgets during the pandemic with pandemic relief dollars, knowing they're going to get cut back. And then they go, oh gosh, we need more money, right? We got it. And by her increasing the state budget, that takes away our kicker money. There's so much excess money in the state of Oregon that we have a kicker. But if they can claim it, then we don't get it. Also, in her statement, she says that even though there's declining enrollment, there's increasing costs due to inflation and many other factors.
Which they are
Declining
creating.
enrollment? What?
Which they are creating the inflation that's gutting the budgets.
Yes.
You know what they used to call this back in the 70s? They used to call it the wage and price spiral, because as inflation would go up, people would say, well, then I need more um, income. They go on strike. They'd be like, you got to pay me more. Then everybody would get raises and they go spend more money. And that would create more inflation, which would create more need for raises. And that's what the Democrats have created. They've created the 1970s is what they've done, which was an incredible achievement of them to reproduce the worst era of the economy in the last 75 years is the 1970s. And it's very hard to get out of it because usually it's very painful to unwind all the spending and the inflation that comes from this.
Yes, it is. And also the governor wants the agencies to monitor the estimated local property tax revenue in the second year of the biennium. Because we've talked about this on Captive Audience, the governor wants to actually have the state control the property tax and collect the property taxes for the counties. They want to up this and raise the county property taxes.
So they can steal it.
Yes, I'll tell you, it's not it. This is why, and I'm bringing these things up because we're coming up to November election, and it is so important of how we vote that we can help eliminate some of this, by winning more seats at our Congress, the Senate, the House. This is how we can help to thwart some of this, So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, but I want to also mention something that's really important coming up that I ran across today. And it is a story from OPB. Let me post the link. And what it is Oregon livestock farmers will soon face more oversight. And this has a deadline to put in comments on. And so Oregon farmers raising sheep, chicken, or cows will soon have to comply with new state rules. Environmental groups, of course, and some small farm advocates say the changes bring much needed clarification on who qualifies for a permit, usually reserved for large commercial scale livestock farms. And it's called COFA. While some agriculture trade groups say the changes put more burden on farmers. So the Oregon Department of Agriculture is wrapping up a process that began that would put more regulatory oversight. It was supposed to put it on large commercial livestock farms. But what they're doing, they're proposing several changes. And so to the state's confined animal feeding operation, which is CAFO, permit. And this is going to be stricter water use and stricter construction requirements. And so this was signed into law last year. So now they're putting the rules together on this. Under this, it would, on water use, it would be permitted livestock farmers will only be able to use up to 12,000 12,000 gallons of water a day for animal drinking water without a water use permit. So you are limiting the farmers or not, ranchers of what they are able to do. They want to say, I'm trying to find exactly, because it said about the how many animals it restricts as well. So the water use, if they want to use more water, they'll need a permit from the Oregon Water Resource Department. Before, the CAFOs did not have to disclose how much water they were going to use or where they planned to get it from. So these are some changes because of rapid groundwater depletion and overpumping causing wells to run dry. Well, there's a lot of things that are contributing to that. But the new draft rules confine a CAFO as a livestock operation that houses animals in buildings or pins for 12 hours or more a day for more than 120 days a year. Now,
So what is
even
that?
if,
What compelling state interest is there in confined animal feeding operations? What business does the state government have in pursuing this? They have come up with a bunch of things that are connected to it in order to restrict it. Why
yes.
the hell is this their business at all?
I agree with that. I don't. It's horrible because they're saying that the new clarifications means farmers with fewer than 20 dairy cows or fewer than 250 laying hens will not be required to get a CAFO permit unless they produce over 100 gallons of water or manure a day. And this, so the groups like Oregon Farm Bureau, Oregon Dairy Farmers Association, and the Northwest Chicken Council view more regulation as an unneeded burden on the industry and local food supply chain. And bingo, it is going to affect the food supply chain. This is hurting, going to
Well, it's not
really,
just
really,
supply. It's not just supply, but we keep coming back to it. I'm going to say the word again: inflation. This is
yes,
what causes the cost of food to go up, because when you have less of it or you have additional costs added to it, these guys can't just eat this cost. They have to pass it along
yeah,
to the consumers. I think from what I'm reading here, this is another backroom special interest, leftist, radical, progressive effort to stick it to people who eat
yeah,
meat
exactly.
and also dairy products,
Yeah,
and it's these groups that they could never run on these issues in an election, so they just do it through this quiet back door. We'll change the law here, and then we'll start regulating this here, and then once it's in place, we'll say that anybody who tries to get rid of it is a bad person. And they'll force all these industries to go and figure out how they can pressure their way back out of it. They usually fail. And then all the costs get passed on to you and me. And those costs will make a steak that today already costs $14 a pound to be $21 a pound. And you know what they're doing there? They're not banning dairy uh, and livestock and chicken. They're not banning it. They're just making it impossible to afford it.
Well, they are much like they did energy. They put all
Mhm.
these restrictions on coal plants. The coal plant complied until they finally said, you know what? This new latest restriction you put on, we can't do it. We won't make any money. And so they shut down. And
Yeah, they
that's
just
what
put them out of business.
this is what will happen to the ranchers in the state of Oregon. So I'm bringing this to you and trying to drive the importance of this home because the State Department of Agriculture is asking people to weigh in on the changes to the CAFO program, and public written comments are due by Monday, July 22nd. And the agency will likely adopt the changes later this summer. And I'll tell you, all of us, every single one of us, need to submit testimony. B, contact your representatives, your senators, and say, what the hell is this? Because they can write the rule. The legislators can write the rule instead of the Department of Agriculture, which is an unelected bureaucratic agency in the state of Oregon. And the legislatures can actually fix this. So, it's we don't have to rely on the lobbyists for the greenies to wreck our ranching here in the state of Oregon. So I felt so strongly about this. We have to be aware and There is a link right here. Let me copy this link. And this is the link for rules and comment processes from the State of Oregon Department of Agriculture. So there is a link right there that will take you to this, because we have to bring awareness and talk. So today's Friday. You have until Monday to make a statement, and all you don't have to be nasty or anything. Just say, I oppose these new rules. It can be a very simple statement. Be concise in what you say.
Well, and they had a meeting, it looks like. I'm just looking at this. They had a meeting on the 15th, so earlier this week, from 1 to 2:30 p.m., which got no attention.
Of course.
They do,
Of course.
right. They list here last day for written comments. They do not provide a link to submit the written comments in this section. Why would you want to do that if you don't really give a crap what people
Right.
think,
Right.
But you can submit comments on the proposed rules, which you can find on this page. It's SB 85 proposed rules. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste this in here.
Thank
There's
you.
an email address that you can send it to right up at the top here. And you can and should tell them what to do and where to stick these rules.
Yeah.
Be polite, be professional about it, but I think being pithy also pays. Oh yeah, there, I think you posted it as well.
Perfect. Perfect.
And this is what you can do. You can just send an email saying this is going to cause all these costs to go up. It's going to put legitimate businesses out of business. It's going to hurt Oregon's economy. And it actually doesn't serve any purpose to advance the public interest whatsoever. It is just overburdensome regulation meddling that's going to make it harder for Oregonians to afford Oregon.
Yes, it is. So, changing now, a different subject. Oregon has released yesterday a new draft wildfire hazard map. And so let me post that here. And with that, it doesn't look terribly much different than the last one. And instead of having 5 categories, it only has 3 now. you are either in you're in the low hazard, the moderate hazard, or the high hazard. And they took the wheat farms out of the high hazard like they had them. I mean, my goodness. But it's still, frankly, and instead of calling it they changed the name of it too. It's kind of funny because they're calling it the wildfire hazard map. And the other name, what was that? It was, they called it something else. It was something else. There's somewhere in this article, it says the 2 different names. I thought that was funny when I was looking at this. And so it is it's not supposed to change how our insurance rates are. But right now, I don't know how it is over where you're at, but over here, just yesterday, we had 10 fires happening in Umatilla County. And over in Baker County and north of there, actually, there's a fire up in southeast Washington that is very close to coming down into Oregon if it hasn't already today. We've got some big fires over here that has consumed, upwards of 50,000 and even 100,000 acres. And it's rangeland, and some of it is into timber, but it's a lot of rangeland. And we've had a lot of dry lightning over here for the last 4 days. When we have these high temperatures, we get dry lightning. A lot of these have been started by that. But on this map, The public, here's another one, and this one they at least put, I'm going to copy this link, copy this email address and post it in, because there is a place to submit, and this article put the address of where to submit comments, and it's a good thing to do. So read about it, and it says, while the public has until August 18th to comment on this new map, and people should contact his department with any feedback. It's Gasparini is the fella's name, Derek Gasparini. He is the Oregon Department of Forestry spokesperson. And the meetings and other public comments played a big role in launching this new map. Well, yes, people were outraged. Even our senators and our representatives were outraged. A lot of them were affected by the wildfires that we've had going on in the past. And so they've, the new name, oh, here it was called a wildfire risk map. Now it's the wildfire hazard map.
The only map you need for wildfire hazard is you just need to see where the federal lands are, and you need to see where the state capital is, because those are the two entities that are causing wildfires to be hazardous. They could be prevented. They can be mitigated significantly in the areas where there's where forest management can be engaged in that they refuse to do. And but instead, they don't do any of that. They don't really care. You don't hear anybody going to the mat saying we're going to dramatically transform how the Bureau of Land Management and the Forest Service handle fires. We're just going to let them burn. And they do it every year. They keep saying that it's climate change, but it really is what the only change that we need to address is regime change in at the federal and state level. If we do that, then climate change won't be able to cause fires, because we'll have changed the leadership that's causing our fires to grow out of control, and as they blame it on something that isn't really causing it to happen. These fires happen, like you said, due to things like dry light. That stuff was happening.
It's always happened.
Yeah, forever. And so we need to actually transform the leadership. And these guys say this stuff and get away with it all the time.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem we have, and this is why everybody has to get out and vote, don't stop the activity of voting because somebody says, well, there's just no point in it. Well, you know what? There's no point in it if you don't vote. Everybody out there, I know you and I vote, but you lose your excuse when you don't vote. And yes, it's true. A lot of Democrats don't care if a bunch of people's properties and natural areas get burned up in places that don't vote for them. That's true. They don't care. No. And how do we know that? Because they've literally taken 4 years to get assistance to people who had their places burned up in September of 2020.
Yes.
They still haven't done it. I just talked to Ed Deal about that a couple of weeks ago, and it's like they're still getting this aid apparently and haven't succeeded. So that is not a lack of ability or money. That's a lack of will on the part of the people that have been chosen to lead the state. So we have to get the will to kick them out. And there's no better year than 2024 as the Democrats sink under their own chaotic mess that they've created. It couldn't happen to a nicer party, but we're going to have to all get out and push here. And that means voting.
We do. And, when you don't vote, you are voting. You're voting for what you don't want.
Yeah.
When you vote, you're voting for what you do want. And when you don't vote, you are letting the other side have it. Quite frankly.
You're letting other people decide for you. And by the way, one of those people could well be the wife of Jamie McLeod Skinner, who happens to be director of the Oregon Board of Chiropractic Examiners, Cass McLeod Skinner, who made a joke. Well, I don't even know if it's a joke. Made a
No,
comment.
it's not a joke, a statement, though. I just posted a link to that.
Nobody's been this disappointed in inches since Stormy Daniels, talking about basically how she regrets that the shooter missed President Trump's head.
Yeah.
And she's a government employee, so you and I are paying for her salary. There are calls, and this is a test for Tina Kotek, because obviously this person is a privileged person that made this comment, because this is the wife of a candidate that has run for repeatedly and recently lost in the primary in the 5th congressional district, but only
Thank
narrowly
goodness.
missed going to Congress in 2022, Jamie McLeod Skinner. And it's this, there is a Catalyst article that you posted here by the leaders, Republican leaders of the House and Senate, Daniel Bonham and Jeff Helfrich, calling for this person to be fired by Governor Kotek.
Yeah, she needs to be fired. No state director should be using this. I don't care whose wife it is or husband it is. When you are representing the state of Oregon, that should not be your language. I don't care if it's on your personal social media. No way, no way. We do not condone killing our political opponents. We take it out at the ballot box. That's what we do. We take it up at the ballot box.
And you wonder why Antifa was allowed to run wild for an entire set of years there, especially in 2020. And these people had nothing to say and did nothing about all of that. It's because they actually believe in violence. As long as it's violence that's by their friends against their political opponents. That's the bottom line. And if you don't vote them out, and if you don't make them fear losing their jobs in an election, they won't do anything about it.
So, going on a little bit, now we have more Democrats piling on, calling for Biden to exit the race. Ron Wyden has now jumped in on that. Okay, he's saying the bottom line is defeating Donald Trump. And 9 more Democrats joined the chorus calling on Biden to exit the race. For me, I say Biden, run. And, the Democrats have got a mess on their plate. Absolutely a mess on their plate.
They do, and they deserve it. They've made their bed. They should go lie in it. It's a big pile of poop, but they should lie in it. And you know what they're going to do? You know what the Democrats are going to do if they decide to conduct this coup against Joe Biden? They're going to disenfranchise 14 million Democrat voters across 50 states and 7 territories who actually voted for Joe Biden to be their nominee. That's what they're going to do. So the party of democracy, I'm sick and tired of being lectured by Democrats about how they're saving democracy, because what they're going to do to save democracy in their view is they're going to destroy it. It reminds me of that thing in the joke in the Vietnam War, is that in order to save that village from communism, it had to be destroyed. Well, that's a typical Democrat move. There is that they're going to have to destroy what they call democracy. The one who's saving democracy is actually Donald Trump, because he's talking about the issues that people care about. He's talking about the things people want solved. He's talking about the solutions. And the Democrats are talking about a bunch of things that people don't care about, except for the radical left base. Mm-hmm. No one voted for having livestock regulated that way. They didn't run on that.
No, not at all.
Doing it anyway. What people did care about, which they are going to make worse with that, is inflation. They care about whether they can afford their lives. They care about whether or not people are streaming across the southern border. They care about people, 100,000 people being killed a year by fentanyl that's coming from China through Mexico. They care about whether or not it's safe for people to go in and conduct themselves in their own neighborhoods. They care about all these things that the Democrats are actually making worse and aren't talking about solving, except when Democrats think that they can actually cause people to pay more taxes, and then they still don't solve it. So saving democracy means doing what the people want, and the Democrats aren't doing that.
No.
The name of their party is almost a joke now because it has nothing to do with democracy. It has to do with taking the opinions of a very small number of people and imposing it on the country because they've been able to get away with it. And we have to stop them. That's what this is about. And we have to apply consequences at the ballot box for people who let uh, folks that run agencies in our state government. We have to apply consequences so that if the governor won't do something about it, then the governor's got to go. She's got to
So
go.
hey, let's talk about the RNC, the convention here.
Well, could I
Kevin.
mention one more thing about Joe Biden? The rumor is that he's going to step down this weekend. I think all these rumors are just efforts to pressure him. I don't actually believe he's going to step down, but there is an increasing chorus of members of Congress who are extremely nervous. And the only reason why they're nervous is because they think not only will he lose, but they will too, that they'll lose power. That's all they care.
Well, you're right. And I just am posting a story that he said this afternoon and this is from PJ Media. It looks like Biden is staying in the race. He goes, I'll be back on the campaign trail next week. He got COVID just in time that he didn't have to do another event. I think it was in Las Vegas. you know, I think he ran out of gas. And so miraculously he caught COVID, had to leave after waiting. These people had to wait for an hour. I don't know.
I saw that there's an accounting for Joe Biden's had 6 vaccinations.
Oh my gosh.
So apparently it really works because
right.
He got COVID anyway.
So, hey, how did you let me ask this question. Have you ever seen a convention like this one? Republican convention?
No, I thought it was fantastic, but it was also like right time, right place, right people at the convention to deliver this message. It was, the people are with Republicans because the Republicans are with the people. And they were able to talk about real things. I found the Gold Star families of the ones who were killed in the Afghanistan withdrawal.
That was
very, very compelling. They put it in stark terms, and there's a lot of people with sons and daughters serving in the military, and right now the commander in chief is very likely to be the one that gets us into more wars and gets people killed. I can't think of a more compelling reason, especially when he lied about whether or not they even died. He lied in the debate about whether they died. And I don't care if he forgot. Then you don't want somebody whose memory is so poor he can't remember the single greatest foreign policy, national security blunder that he's directly responsible for in decades. This is what Joe Biden did. He caused that, and he still won't admit that it was a screw up. And now he apparently doesn't believe anyone died on his watch. That's a horrifying thing to say to those families, and I'm glad those families came back and are exacting the proper revenge, which is to encourage people to vote out Joe Biden or whoever they try to replace him with. And then I thought the other speech that I thought was very compelling, there were many of them, but the 98-year-old man from Wisconsin, the veteran, World War II veteran.
Yes.
I thought that put a historical perspective on everything that's going on. And the guy said, you get Donald Trump back in the White House, if you need somebody to go and storm on beach again, I'm signing up.
Yeah, that was wonderful. I'll tell you, true patriot there, a true patriot. That was wonderful. Both of those things that you mentioned were absolutely wonderful. There was as I've read, some various articles and looked at various things from other people, this was the broadest. Someone had said, I think the Republican Party has been remade. And I'm going to have to agree in that it is not the country club Republicans only. It is people from all walks of life. Looked at the everyday American up there speaking why they are now going to support Trump, because they're tired of what has been going on. Their eyes have been opened, be it the border, Afghanistan, the inflation rates, so many things that the Democrat Party has implemented these last 3.5 years. It's pretty horrific on the American people. And so, I mean,
They've inflicted this on the American people.
they have.
Well, the
They have.
RNC laid it out for everyone, and then they took the victims of all this stuff that's been inflicted, and they put them on a stage and let them speak. And
Yeah.
they were real people. This is the other thing is the people they stuck up there, the RNC did, they're just real. Some of them just decided at the last minute that they would come and speak. And so they just had these real people speak who said what they really thought. And they didn't tell other people what to think. They told them what they know. Like the guy that introduced President Trump, Dana
White.
Yeah, I thought he was very sharp, very compelling. He just said, "Here's the clear thing: if you want security and peace and prosperity, if you want those things, you're only going to get them from one candidate. The other candidate, you're going to get what you've been getting. And if you hate that, then you should know how to vote." And I'm just telling you what I know about President Trump. And then he shared it. And person after person after person shared that, which blew up the media narrative. It just destroyed it. And our competition, I honestly don't know what the heck they're going to do for a convention, especially if Biden stays in. Are they really going to have person after person march up there and talk about how wonderful Joe Biden is, how sharp his attack he is, how he's done amazing things for our country?
They might. Look how many lies. You know what, though? They might, Kevin, because look how many lies Biden did in the debate. It was like 28 lies just coming out, spewing out of his mouth during the debate. So, they're not above really twisting the truth. And what I think a lot of people, I watched it on C-SPAN. And then I stayed on C-SPAN and listened to the callers for like quite a bit afterwards, and listened to the callers. And that is telling. When you have Democrats calling up and going, I'm a Democrat and I like what I see, I like what I hear, and I want the borders closed. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I don't want any wars. I'm voting for Donald Trump.
And C-SPAN doesn't have any ability to control what's coming in. But what they are getting is a ton of people who just decided that they, on their own volition, were going to call in. And they would go back and forth between different calling. And it's stark, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's the thing is, like, I think everybody's BS detector has finally been triggered, at least enough of them, that they can tell that when one party with a completely inept, mentally deficient candidate who happens to be president right now, that's who they're offering. And then they all say that all these Democrats coming up and saying everything's fine, nothing to see here, this guy's great, he's so sharp as attack. All these liars. You remember in 2020 when there was that reporter saying this is a mostly peaceful protest, and there's like
the flames all in the background.
You know what those flames are? That's the pants of the Democrats on fire every time they go and say anything to the public. People can see that it's probably one of the biggest frauds ever inflicted on at least half the population of the United States. Anybody who had 2 brain cells and watched anything that wasn't filtered heavily and spoon fed to them so that they could not know Biden's true condition. Anybody who actually just watched the actual video footage of his own speeches, his own appearances, him just walking from Marine One to the White House or up into Air Force One or
Mm-hmm.
across the stage as he got lost. And, as a friend of ours likes to call him the human Roomba, just running into things. And, he, we were not at all surprised what we saw in the debate. It was shocking still how bad he was, because clearly he was even worse than normal. But the thing is, he's not going to get better. And that's the thing that has the Democrats worried. He's not improving. We're not going to have this sudden, sharp as attack Joe Biden unless he's getting some kind of bizarre blood transfusion right now that's going to just, last through election day. And this COVID thing is a big cover for. There's nothing that's going to get better about him.
No, it isn't. It's the gaffes are happening more frequently. And so, yes. Now, I like what Lori says here. Over 90% of Trump's campaign promises last time were met, except draining the swamp. But you know what Trump did? He actually did part of that draining the swamp. For every new rule, he said you have to get rid of 2. Well, it ended up being about 10-1. And so, that was a whole lot of deregulation, which helped to unleash our economy. And he did drain some of the swamp. And in fact, wasn't it, what was the agency that he said, you have to move out of Washington, D.C. We're going to relocate you. I think it was BLM. We're going to relocate you out to where the people are, into the states where the property is, instead of trying to manage this. And, he started that ball rolling. Unfortunately, I believe Obama had undone that. But we have never had before a president that had promises made and promises kept.
Yeah, not to that degree. And I think it shocked everybody, including people that thought, hey, politicians say this stuff, but they don't really do it,
Yeah.
And then not only did he do it, but when Democrats threw up barriers like to the wall, when they threw up barriers that they thought would be sufficient to slow him down and just cause him to just quit doing it, he just went and found a way anyway.
Yes, he did.
He found a legal way to do it. They kept suing him and he kept fighting through it. So that's what the next 4 years is going to be like. But you know what we need to do, in addition to making sure that we have a new president and that we have President Trump is who that is. We need to make sure we have both houses of Congress. We've got to hand that to the president, or we're just stuck in this mire. It's like being stuck in deep mud. And we're talking in the House of Representatives. If the Democrats control it by 1 vote, you can be sure that they will control it with an iron fist. You won't see any of this people trying to unseat Hakeem Jeffries as speaker. You won't see any of this, I don't know if we'll pass this bill or not. They will have an iron fist on these
You're
guys.
absolutely right. So how did you like seeing Hulk Hogan there?
That was good. I actually liked his explanation before he went on for why he was doing it. He said, look, I'm generally somebody who kind of tried to stay out of the political limelight. But then when they took a shot at my hero, I'm like, that's it. Let me in. I'm coming.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk. And I think that he actually represents a whole bunch of how a whole bunch of people feel. That's what the convention did. There was something in it for everybody who feels like they've had enough of this. And I believe that is a strong majority, actually, and the polls are showing it. President Trump has been the focus of Democrats and their hate. But you know what he's also been is he's been a bulwark. He's been somebody who's stood in their way. And he said it, they aren't coming after me. They're coming after you.
Yeah.
And I'm standing in the way. And that became extremely apparent after what happened last weekend. I think everybody realized how close we came to something that would alter American history. We're talking about just, you know, less than an inch,
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh, yes. Quarter inch, he said. And so I really liked Kai Trump
Mhm.
speaking. Here Don Jr. says, yeah, my daughter called up and said, Dad, I want to speak. Here she is, 17 years old, never done this before. That is quite intimidating to get out and speak, not just to the people in that room, in that stadium, but to Americans and the millions that are watching that. And I tell you, a tip of the hat to Kai. She handled herself beautifully. She spoke so well. What a beautiful young woman, and a great speaking voice.
Yeah, no, really. And I thought there were also many speakers, younger people who showed up in this one, and people who attended the convention. Even Oregon had several young Republicans attending, and I've been kind of watching some of their posts. Look, you can't just change things for a 4-year period. This is an election which is going to steer a course for the next 40. And this is like, do you go off the cliff or do you take off into the sky? And we have a choice here. We have it. It's in our hands. We can see it. Sometimes you can't see what the future is going to be like, or there's a lot of uncertainty. The only thing we're uncertain about is exactly how the election is going to turn out. But I think we know what's going to happen depending on what the
Mhm.
result is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I felt our party is more welcoming of people that we not wouldn't necessarily associate in our private lives or whatnot, but people from every walk of life. And that's what it is. We are the United States of America, and we have people from all walks of life, from all of our states here. And I believe that the convention was representative of that. As I saw people, somebody holding up their little baby, looked like in a little tiny suit, to the American Samoa, and the Cowboys, of course, of Texas, all in their hats. But people, didn't matter if you had tattoos, didn't matter if you were a kid. I saw a lot of young people at the convention that the cameras would go and show us. And sadly, and so people from just all walks of life. I'm it was great to see a uniting time for the Republican Party in our nation.
I would even argue that it was not just the Republicans uniting. That did happen. I would actually say it was an invitation to the country to unite behind
Absolutely.
fixing the mistakes, fixing the remedying
Absolutely.
into it. And also, there was a lot of optimism. I heard the word love a lot, and I heard
Yes.
a bright future is just around the corner. It's not dark clouds and doom. We already know what that looks like. We've got it. But that a bright future is actually possible, which which is because there's righteous anger from people of all backgrounds about what's been done to the country and what's been done to them. And many of them got to speak in this. I really liked the mother of the black mother of a soldier who returned from I think it was Afghanistan. A decorated soldier. He came back and he got stabbed and killed. And boy, did she like knew exactly what was on her mind.
Yeah, she was on fire.
She was great.
Yeah.
Because even though it's tragic circumstances that brought her there, this is now the way she can honor her son is
Yeah.
is to do what he did, to take what he did fighting for our country and use the tragedy to help save our country.
Absolutely. And then we had, oh, my brain, it just went, who just got out of prison, serving 4 months.
Oh, I
Um,
know who you're talking about. Peter
Navarro. So
Navarro. Yeah.
here we have Peter Navarro. He says, I am not going to break the law, and I'm gonna just go, and I've served my thing, and here I am. I got out this morning in Miami, and here I am. It was great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, so many good moments. I posted an article here from the Epic Times on key takeaways, from this. Tucker Carlson was really good,
Yeah.
um, as well. And Trump bringing up having when he came, his moment of silence for the fallen supporter, Corey Comparator, that was moving.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a huge place. Total silence for that moment.
Yes. Yes. And
Well, and the way those Gold Star families also described it sound very similar to everything else we've heard. That Biden ignored them, wouldn't say their kids' names, talked about himself and his son who had nothing to do with what happened. Trump called them up, sincerely interested in them, talked with them, visited with them, stays in touch with them. So which one is real? Which one do
yeah,
you want running the country?
exactly. Exactly. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Everybody, have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah.
And we'll be back on Monday. Kevin will be back on Monday. And I will tell you, on the Democrat convention, whenever it's happening, it's on August 19th to 22. I'm going to take one for the team, and I'm going to watch it
Yeah.
because I want to see the comparison.
I'll
You
ship
know,
you
yeah,
a Costco size container of barf bags, and you just plow through it. That's what I
and
think.
I'll be talking about it here on Captive Audience.
But the other thing we have to do between now and election day is fight, 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 and not fight
Absolutely.
and hurt people. Fight to get people to care enough to change what's happening to their country. That's
Yes.
all it takes.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin. Everybody, share the message. Have a super weekend. Try to stay cool. If you're in the smoky fire areas, get out, and we pray that your homes are safe and your animals are safe, and more importantly, that you are safe.
Amen.